I'm now going to hand over to Emily Reid, who's the Climate Emergency Project Manager at Devon County Council, to talk to us a little bit more about, we've mentioned a couple of times, the Devon Carbon Plan, just to talk a little bit more about it and the context in which we're going to be conducting the Assembly.
Great, thank you, Kayla. So really excited after a lot of planning to get the Assembly kicked off. As Kayla says, I'm Emily Reid, I'm the Devon Climate Emergency Project Manager, and I'm going to give you an overview of the Devon Carbon Plan. So as Phil mentioned, the Carbon Plan is currently an interim Devon Carbon Plan, and that's because the work of the Citizens' Assembly is going to complete it by recommending what we should do about those challenging issues. So the overall objective of the plan is to create a resilient net zero carbon Devon where people and nature thrive. You might be wondering what net zero actually means. And what it means is achieving a balance between the greenhouse gases that we put into the atmosphere, into the air, and those that are taken out. So you'll hear more about climate change and the climate science on Saturday, but for now I'll just say that greenhouse gas is something that traps heat in the atmosphere, causing climate change. So for example, when we use petrol in our cars, out of the exhaust comes greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. Or when we burn gas in our boilers to heat water at home, they produce greenhouse gases. But plants absorb carbon dioxide, one of the greenhouse gases, from the air, and that means that we can remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere by planting trees or storing peat bogs. And if we can balance what we're putting in the air with what's being taken out by things like trees, then that means that we're net zero. So what emissions are we actually trying to balance to net zero in Devon? Well, we asked Exeter University to gather data on Devon's greenhouse gas emissions, including for Plymouth and Torbay. And this emission overview doesn't include emissions associated with things we buy that are made in other countries. It's just the emissions produced within Devon. So the biggest sources of emissions in Devon are from our buildings, and then from transportation and agriculture. So 41% from buildings, 29% from transport, and 16% from agriculture. From agriculture and forestry and other land use, the main source of emissions there are from the cow's digestion of grass feed. So the interim Devon Carbon Plan provides a pathway to achieve net zero by 2050 at the latest. As Phil said, we would like to do it sooner, where we can accelerate that. And there is a target of reducing emissions by 50% by 2030 from a 2010 base level. And the plan describes what we need to do to overcome the challenges to reach net zero. But it also highlights a lot of opportunities and other benefits that we'll achieve in the process. It's a plan for everyone. It's not just for the partner organisations of the Devon Climate Emergency Partnership. And the plan is really clear about the fact that actually we need new resources and policy to implement the plan. We need additional funding in many cases. The plan's really clear that it's important we recognise that Devon's a rural county, and that has both opportunities and challenges. Some actions will be easier in our towns and cities, and some actions will be easier in our more rural areas. And again, as I said, it is a plan for the whole of Devon, not just the area of Devon County Council, but also Torbay and Plymouth. So you'll see the plan is quite a large document. The public have already given us feedback that they'd like it edited down into a shorter document, which we're currently doing. And we're not expecting you to read the whole document. We have got a summary for you. But the plan covers cross-cutting themes, so things that are not just to do with one sector, such as spatial planning. And it also looks at what we should do about our economy and use of resources, our energy supply, the built environment, transport, and food, land and sea. So tackling emissions in all of those sections. So the aims of the plan can be summarised in 8 points. Fossil fuels will no longer be used as an energy source. We're going to use more renewable energy, and communities are going to be actively engaged in energy issues. Collectively, we'll walk, cycle, and use electric vehicles. Energy consumption needs to be minimised, so that means that we're going to drive less, we're going to be more active and healthy as a result though, and services are likely to need to be more local, so that reduces our travel needs, and our buildings are going to be more efficient as well. We'd like to see communities taking action for a net zero Devon, and communities thinking innovatively, sharing ideas about how to achieve net zero, and really having citizens at the centre of change, which is why this forum is so important. And in instances where it's very difficult to transition to other types of fuel, and we still need to burn fossil fuels that cause greenhouse gases, then we'll have to capture those gases before they get into the atmosphere. So we're going to have to pilot some carbon capture and storage projects. So what that means is not allowing these gases to get out of the chimneys from industrial processes, but capturing them at source. And we're going to have to escape greenhouse gas emissions. We're going to have to minimise greenhouse gas emissions escaping. So for instance, from sewage works or from landfill, and also from electrical equipment, because sometimes electrical components are housed in greenhouse gases to help cool the components. But if those leak into the atmosphere, then they contribute to climate change. And we need to develop a resilient local economy. So a just economy that is fair for everyone involved, and that uses materials in a circular way. But we think there's opportunities to reskill workers into new industries where old industries are no longer viable, and there's going to be more opportunities to spend money locally. So resources are going to be used, as I said, in a more circular fashion, and that means recycling more, reusing things and repairing things, but also that we're going to consume fewer materials in the first place. And we've got a great opportunity in Devon to maximise natural carbon storage. As I said, trees and peat bogs can draw down climate change causing gases from the atmosphere through plants, and that can also help to adapt to climate change by providing natural flood controls and provide habitats for wildlife. And this can provide us with a healthy environment and a good environment to grow high quality local food. So the 8 points that I've just run through are the overall aims of the plan, the things that need to happen. But within the plan, these aims are broken down into more detailed goals, which address the issues that are barriers to achieving those 8 top level aims of the plan. And then under each goal, there's more detailed actions that say, well, what do we actually need to do? So, for example, one of the goals in the plan is to make it easy to transition between different types of travel and transport. And one of the actions to achieve that is to introduce integrated ticketing so that you can easily move between a bus and a train, for instance. And that would help contribute to achieving the aim of us making sure energy consumption is minimal and we move away from fossil fuels. Some of the actions in the plan are also highlighted as priority actions, and we've done that by looking at which are likely to have the most impact on reducing our contributions to climate change and will be easiest to implement. So as Ian said, there's an opportunity to think about the kind of Devon we want, and there's lots of benefits of achieving net zero. We think we can have a fairer, healthier, more resilient, more prosperous society in Devon with better health and well-being and an improved environment. And I think that's going to come out in the conversation over the course of the Assembly, hopefully. Thank you.